We're going live. I guess we're live.
Hey guys.
Hey! I can't see who's in the chat. I don't. I
Uh,
don't. I don't even think I'm going to be able to. But
Hang on,
not
let me
from where
see.
I'm at.
Hang
So
on.
if you are entering the chat, we're having a few difficulties with sound, which usually
Yep.
goes on. So my sister's trying to figure out the technical difficulties. I'm saying that Spirit knows that it's an intense conversation that we're about to have. And any blockers, we're not going to let that block us because we're going to find our way to have this conversation tonight.
All right. So the thing is, I think I'm gonna have to. I'm just gonna get up and move because it's live, and I can hear us both when I go onto the channel from my thing. So let me just go back over to my computer. Oh boy.
Do we have anyone that is in the chat yet that could tell us if they can hear you?
Yeah, I think your sister.
Okay, let's see if she can hear. Hey, Susie.
So hold on, let me just I'm gonna have to pull this up again. See what's going on here. Okay. So it's gonna have to be like this, I guess. Okay. Where am I? Wait a minute. Let's get this all going. Hold on. Excuse me.
I'm going to go get my smudge stick. Okay, let's clean up some of the energy.
Yes, please. Okay. So this should be. Oh, wait.
Asking Spirit to cleanse the space of any negative energies. I'm going to send some towards you
Thank
and some
you.
towards me. And that only good energy remains. Mm. Mm. Well, this is what happens. Technical difficulties, folks. I cannot see anybody in the chat. I'm going to see if I can turn the phone around to see if I can see who's in the chat. And if there is some way I can do that. Anyways, hopefully you're all having a great day out there. Here in Lakeel, Nova Scotia, the weather is it's a good day. It's been threatening rain, but as you can see, I'm sitting outside. The birds are chirping. The rain still has not come, and it doesn't seem like it wants to come anytime soon. So I'm taking advantage of it. And these technical difficulties are just the things that show up, I guess, getting us a little stressed for the conversation, because the topic uh, in the movie was filled with nothing but stress. So we will neutralize our energy before going in. So bear with us, folks. Bear with us. I'm going to put my phone back up on the, because I cannot see the chat, so it's no good for me to have it down.
Okay. Okay, this is crazy.
What's that?
Can you hear me though?
I can't, honey. And you're still, yeah, you're still. Can Susie hear you? I'm wondering if it's me. Is it? Can the chat hear you? Can the chat hear me? Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear, or just a yes, please. Which you'll have to look at, Lana, because I don't see the chat. These are the things that happen in the void. You never know what's going to happen in the void. There. Okay, she's gone out. We will wait patiently. I can't even really chat with you guys in the chat. I don't even know who's in the chat, but anyways, anyone have a chance to see the movie? I watched it again today, and it was as intense as the first time that I saw it. And I am still sure that there are things in that movie that I missed just because of the, uh, there was lots of symbolism in there, and it was intense, just an intense watch. So how's everybody been making out with the current energies that we have been, I don't know, we're swimming through them, setting in them. It feels a little bit of everything. Sometimes I feel like I'm swimming in a bunch of energy, and there are other times I just feel like I'm setting into it. So I guess it depends on what's coming up, and I have been rolling with it though. I guess I just learned how to roll with it. I don't know if you can hear my music, but I have. I don't think we're going to keep that up there, because if I keep doing that, my phone is. I'm going to end up breaking my phone. So we are not going to keep it up into the.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Can I hear you?
Yes.
No.
Doing what?
What? Well, we'll figure out what the problem is. Have you went live on your computer before?
I have, but the thing is, as a guest, not as like the host. And so I'm wondering if
So there's not something that you're not clicking because you are the host in the mic, your mic's on.
okay. Can you hear me? Now why can't I hear you?
I'm sorry?
Okay, I can hear you now. Okay, you know what?
I can't even hear you, babe. I can't even hear
You
you. I
can't
can't
hear
even hear
me.
you. Just remain with us, folks. If you just let us bear through these technical difficulties, I promise we're going to give you a good live.
Okay, this makes no sense.
Go get you a coffee. Go pour you a drink. Go do what you do. Listen. For tonight's conversation, I would suggest that you go roll you a spliff. And if I was smart, I would have rolled myself one because you know what? I can promise you all, if I get talking tonight and I start sharing some of my own personal, you all gonna have me in
Oh
tears.
man.
That's where this movie took me, to tears. But that's all right
Okay, so
too.
you know what? I'm just gonna have to roll with it like this, and
What was that,
I'm
baby?
just gonna have to roll with it like this, and and
Okay.
um and I'm gonna have to look at chat a different way because using the restream and then trying to get back over to YouTube
I can't even hear you.
is what the problem is. So I think because I'm okay, hold on. Okay, give me a minute. Oh my lord, what some technical difficulties this has been. Okay. Where is it? Where? Okay. Oh my lord, what some
Technology, baby. I'll tell you. And without fail, every time I go
Okay,
live,
here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I
I
think we're
shouldn't
good.
say
I
that.
think we're good.
Okay. Give it to me, girl.
Okay. So,
Give it
anyways,
to me.
thank you everybody for your patience with doing all of this and joining us here at the Spiritual Void. I want to thank you guys all so much, and to my beautiful friend Hilly, Lilly from Nova
Hilly in
Scotia.
the house. Entered the spiritual
Yes.
void. We're
Yes.
here.
Hi, everybody. So thank you for being here and welcome to chat. Yeah, that was quite quite a thing. So, anyways, trying to figure this out because using Restream, and then this is my first sort of hosting with a third party. So, and tech and me just we don't really
I
mix
can't
that
even
well.
hear.
We don't.
I didn't even hear. You know what? So you know what? In all
Can everybody
fairness,
else hear me?
you know what? Let's try and create something a little bit different than this because this is going to be very difficult to have a conversation in details about a movie if it's a one way.
So you can't hear me. Is that what you're saying, Hilly? All of a sudden you can't hear me again when you were able to hear me before, which is weird. Okay, hold on. Maybe let's try. I'll try this one more time.
So now you know what it's like to be the host, folks. If you've never hosted or done this is the pressure, and this is what goes into creation, and this is what goes into a live. And usually, until because hey, we're all learning, and that's the greatness of this. But also, there's the pressure of it because you're usually learning in front of everybody, and it also lets folk know that what we human, and that is the whole point to tonight's discussion, because so was the main character in this movie human. So we're going to allow you space tonight, and
now I'm getting feedback because
just
I'm here.
now you're getting feedback from me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My mic wouldn't have anything to do with that, but no, you hear me well, right? There's got to be something that we are. What about your headphones?
No, I don't think
Headphones
it
will not
didn't
work.
matter with the headphones. So for some reason, okay.
This real time.
I don't think
This
so.
is in real time. We are problem solving.
It's like it's trying to. No.
Anybody in the chat got any pointers? We'll take them. Who is in the chat? Can you see?
Yeah. So we have. Okay. Can you still hear me?
I can just barely hear you, but I can
Okay,
hear
so
you.
you can hear me. Wonder if it has anything to do with my.
I'm gonna go turn off my music so that I can hear you way better.
Okay, give me a minute. Oh, why is this like this? Okay. How about now? Is that better?
I'm sorry, it's the same.
Okay, well, I don't know. All right, let's see.
And what about the chat? Can the chat hear you?
Well, it seems like the chat can hear me.
The chat can hear you.
Yes. Although now I don't see the chat moving anymore. So I'm not sure. If someone can let us know, that would be great. I'm going to try to refresh the chat. Let's see if that works. Okay. Okay, so you can hear us both. Thank you very much for confirming. Thank you, Sarah.
They can hear you?
Yes. So we're here.
Wow.
Yay. Okay. Oh, thank God. Okay, so that was that was something. And I guess too what is also tripping me out is because it's also a bit on a delay. So what I'm seeing is not like exactly what it like I would have to see it in playback to see it properly, right? Like me trying to view it while we're chatting, unless I do it like from a different device like on my phone. Otherwise it's trying to like simultaneously play the same thing, and then it's just totally, I don't know. So more power to the people who have mastered this and know how, how to operate like with the restream and to use the third party app when it comes to, even with YouTube. I had to use a third-party app because I can't live stream yet with this new channel on YouTube itself. So that's why I had to use Restream. So, but I thank you all so much for your patience and for being here. And like I said, for Hilda for, joining me in this conversation and lending her time and her energy. And it's so crazy because even just before we were going live, I was on Instagram. There is he's a Black author activist, and it's Juneteenth, by the way. We're recognizing Juneteenth, and usually we'll say Happy Juneteenth, but even from his live that he was doing on Instagram, which I caught briefly, and by his name is it Rizma or Risa? He's the author of My Grandmother's Hands, which is a book that talks about healing trauma for melanated people. Let me just grab the book quickly so I can show you, and then we can get into our movie chat.
I do not know why I cannot hear her.
Yeah, that's still a mystery. So, it's okay. So this is the book, My Grandmother's Hands, Rizma Menachem, and he is a social worker, as mine. And so this is racialized trauma and the pathway to mending our hearts and our bodies. So, like, I feel like this is a really important book even for now, because because of it's the fact that it's Juneteenth. And so healing those aspects of trauma, and that's where the video, or the movie rather, Straw, sort of comes in, and why we wanted to do this this live stream, and to talk about it and to hold space, have a raw conversation about the movie and stuff like that. So I want to know who has seen the movie in chat. Who has seen the movie? Just as I'm waiting for Hilly to come back.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, so just wondering who has seen the movie and what you thought about it. For me it was very impactful. It was, yes, I would also say very triggering because it did, putting, hang on a sec, sorry.
I'm back. Sorry about that, folks.
That's okay.
I can hear you now.
Now you can hear me.
I can hear you clearly now. And you can hear me. See, we're back in the spiritual void. Oh my goodness. I came inside because I said, you know what? This is not going to work. I am not going to hear this woman. And I barely heard your intro or anything like that. So, that would have been a hard discussion for me.
Yes. So yes, it was a very powerful movie, Susie. Yeah, because like I said, like when I first watched it, and I love Taraji, right? So and I've loved Tyler Perry's movies and things like that over the years. I mean, there's been controversy where, where with him, where that is concerned and things like that. So, that sort of, in regards to who he is, that is a whole other discussion. But in regards to his filmmaking and the way he makes movies and the movies that he's made and how put together, I felt like this one, and even Hilly and I were discussing it, like, yeah, we feel like this is probably some of his best work. And part of that is because it's not just about, it wasn't just about the storyline, but it was, I think it was, it how it was presented, and also given our current circumstances in society. And that's where I feel, for me, this movie was very impactful. Now, I know, like, even online, when I hear things and I see feedback, people are talk and calling it, like, like trauma porn and things like that, and it's like, well, I can see why some people may feel that way or see it that way. But to me, and this is sort of goes back to why when I did the 3 videos that I did, a mini series for boundaries using the Tarot Activity book by Drea Bloom, and then in that time there was another book, the racial wellness, that came about, and just talking about the trauma that we as melanated, the melanated community experience in today's society, in today's world, and how it's been for generations.
I just want to say something.
Yes.
For me, who does not watch TV, and anybody that knows me, it's like, you know what? I'm good if I do a movie or 2 a year. And
Mhm.
I know about all the Tyler Perry movies, and I saw some of them, and not impressed by many, and yet I can honestly say that, you know what, um, um, and the good storylines and lessons, and the other ones that I've seen, but this one, he nailed it to me. Now it depends on your perspective, because you were talking about those that feel that, you know what, it was like, it wasn't such a negative, or they looked at it from a negative stance.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a thing in that movie that I have not saw or experienced. That's the biggest thing. And I think that if you go through our communities, and you will find that someone that experienced, or you are the mom in that movie. So, that's the reason why I felt it needed to be expressed, or
Yeah.
and talked about.
Yeah.
So, everyone is going to have an opinion, but I personally think that it's a teaching point for all of us, and
Yeah.
especially us as melanated people, in terms of how we look at one another, how we deal with one another, because there's a lot of judgment that comes with one another,
Yep.
and we don't often hold space nor take the time to look and say, that person has been through some things, or something happened to them. We don't do that. It's automatic judgment, and whether that comes through programming, whether that comes through our own trauma, because your trauma will do that.
Yeah. And even as you say, our own trauma, but then there's the other aspect. So there's the trauma, right? And then there's there's going through the trauma, and then there's burying the trauma and not dealing with it, right? And I think that's where a lot of people end up at, where they feel that they're healed from it because they're not dealing with it. They've only buried it. But that's not healing. That's just burying it.
Yeah, yeah.
And all it takes is one thing for that to come sprouting right back up.
And I think that that's what makes it difficult for some to watch. It's
Yes.
like we're living in a time where the energy is, not only is it drawing out things that need to be drawn out, like those certain kinds of traumas that we have buried, but to watch that movie, and have what's going on in terms of the planets, which are and the upgrade that's going on inside of us. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty intense, but
Yes.
great for the moment, because there were things that I had to watch in that movie that I had buried in my own experience. And it wasn't until watching that movie that it kind of, whoa, and also gave me a different perspective on my mother. Because I'll tell you, my mom became a god. Not that she, you know what I mean? Not that she wasn't after before that, but, you know, she really became a god because it just gave another, it was like her story in front of me. And she didn't have tears, nor did she have words to put to her story. But I just saw her go through the motions. And I also saw her shut down on so many on levels and so many times, and you didn't understand what was happening, because this is a woman that was supposed to be your, and was, you know, she was this strong, or that's the appearance, because
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing we're often told, that be strong, and when we say black don't crack, I'm sorry, it has its limits. It has its limits. And
Mm-hmm.
some of us do break. And what we saw happening in that movie was a break.
Yeah, well, black don't crack skin wise. I mean, we rash up. So we
Yeah,
we rash up and
yeah,
stuff
we
like
rash
that,
up. That's right.
right?
That's
But we
right.
don't. But we don't crack. What cracks is our the mental
Yeah,
health, right?
yes,
And
yes.
so, and here's the thing for me. So this whole story with the with Taraji, and like from the get go, and um and we'll try our best not to be too spoiler, but but spoiler alert, because we're talking about the movie, and we would hope that you would have already seen this movie. But even if you don't, even if you haven't, I really, to be honest with you, I even with spoilers, I don't think it matters, because to me, when you go into this movie and you go in with an open heart, you are going to experience and feel everything, whether you knew what was coming or not. So I and that's the thing. See, I watched it more than once. So, right, just and I mean, I wouldn't say that I was as moved by it the second time, because what the initial sparks had already popped off for me, right? So I kind of knew what was coming already. But even with that still didn't say that I wasn't, slightly triggered by it, to
I
even
had
in
to
the
watch
second
it
time.
twice. I had to watch that movie twice, because the second time I watched the movie, I didn't realize that the child was dead already. I went through that whole movie
Yeah,
and not
it wasn't until we had
realizing,
our conversation,
yeah,
and I
I
told
said,
you that was a big key
that
that you
even
missed.
that killed it. That killed it right there. I thought, oh my land, that understands the full reason. Like, she was definitely an autopilot. Which, listen,
Not even
I don't know.
autopilot. She was having an out of body experience. That's what it
Absolutely,
was.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. It was an autopilot. I mean, and when I say autopilot, she still got up and she did all the things, getting her trying to get her daughter's money to the school, all of that, even though she knew that her daughter had passed. That's a
But she
psychotic
was
break.
but she knew, but it was unconscious now to her. It wasn't in her conscious forefront, because she
No,
still went through the motions. That's what we saw at the beginning. She still got her daughter up. She still bathed the daughter. She still got the daughter dressed, although we didn't really see her dressing the daughter. But by the time, right, we saw her leave her apartment with the daughter, go down the stairs, talk to the landlord, and then the other veteran. I think he was a veteran, in the wheelchair. Right? She even stopped to give him money, put the daughter in the car, drop the.
I be right back.
No problem. No problem. We'll just give her a minute. But yeah, but like this movie is it's a very powerful and eye-opening one, and I feel because especially for people who when they um like I said, when we bury stuff, right? But as we bury it, we also run away from anything that is similar to it. So someone else who may be experiencing something similar will run away from that too, right? We
Because it's a
won't we
trigger. It's a trigger.
right? So we'll run away from that too. And we'll say, that's too heavy. I'm not dealing with that. That's because
I
you
just
haven't
look
dealt
at,
with
you know
your
what?
stuff.
Right from the beginning of the movie, if you were observant, you could see that she had challenges. Right from the beginning. First of all, you know what? I think that if she had had another choice, she would have been living somewhere else, especially due to her circumstances with a sick child. And why do I say that? Because the neighbor that lived upstairs, who was playing bass thumping music all night,
To the point where
and
she had to put headphones on her child so her child can sleep.
yeah, that creates a stress. And then yeah,
Yeah.
and and so
No air
she didn't get
condition. No air
no air
condition.
conditioning, no air conditioning.
So just a fan, right? They wake up sweating all the time. I mean, and that's also why we have to be grateful for what we have when we have it and where we are, because there are people who don't have, and so, and especially in a society that is already sort of set up for our lack of success and maybe failure as well. Another thing. So it doesn't help when we are not supportive of one another, when we are like my mom's analogy, crabs in a barrel, right? We just want to claw, and we don't care who we're clawing at or what, or who, we will pull the next one down. No,
Well,
no.
I want to go back to the movie because, many lessons once again of where the breakdown that happened one day in her life could have been prevented.
Yes.
And I say this movie is impacted with many lessons because we are living in a similar world of breakdown, and we have neighbors and we know someone or we
Oh,
don't know
I
them and
wouldn't
they
say
come across.
similar. I would say almost exactly like yours.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll agree with that too. Depending on what your experience is, I just want to
Hmm.
say that.
Yes,
Depending on what your experience is,
exactly.
but I look at the fact that she was a single mom trying to do her very best, and for all intentions was with a sick child, very sick child,
Who was born
who
sick.
born sick, needed medication that was
That the
well,
hospital wanted to abort. What they wanted her to abort
absolutely.
the child first. Okay.
Right, right, right. And then there is a job, her job, she had an employer who was uh he didn't care. He didn't care. He just wanted her to produce like he did all of his other staff. So not only did she have the pressures from home and not making enough money because she was just barely making enough,
Hmm.
um, um, but she also had a landlord that couldn't give two sweet diddles. Didn't
Right.
care, didn't see the job that she was doing. And that's where I say, you know what, I'm going to tell you something. That's why my belief system in being an auntie, what happened to the aunties in our neighborhood? Because it's your auntie that's saying, okay, girl struggling over here, you know? Um, you don't put another load on her by judging her. What can I do? What can I do? And
Hmm.
maybe she's a little messed up. I thought about all those things of where, because one of the things she did not want to do was reach out for help. She had a problem asking for help, which is another thing
That a
that I
lot of
thought
us.
was a lot of us do that. Even I, oh my goodness, I'll tell you, it's not as bad anymore because I realized that, you know what? pride before a fall. My God, the bottom doesn't have to fall out before I ask someone for help, and that I'm actually, it's okay. But there comes that whole thought process of being strong, having to have it all together all the time, and there's only so many hours in a day, and so much bandwidth that we have to handle everything.
Yes. So, yeah, I'm just Susie here is landlord money hungry. Yes, working 3 jobs. Yes. Um that Sarah, that is why it is important to treat each other with love and respect, because we don't know what a person is dealing with in life. Absolutely. Yeah. Felt totally like she was on her own. Absolutely. And you know what? And I feel that. I feel that because when I remember, and I sort of, and but I see I've been working on this. I've been doing the healing work. I've been in therapy. I've addressed these things, right? So I can speak on it. I can get emotional about it, but I can still speak on it with a clear head and not, like I'm right back there. Although sometimes it can
Hmm.
be difficult, right? Because
Hmm.
PTSD, all of those things, right?
Hmm.
But it the part where she was, in her car, she was trying to get back. She went had to ask to leave because she had to go to the daughter's school. Then she went to the daughter's school only to see that they were taking away her daughter. This CPS was taking away her daughter because complaints about the child not eating, not having enough to eat, not having the money so that she could eat, right? All of these things. And then to top it all off, we have this power hungry cop that is driving his own car. He's not even in uniform, and she's there driving, getting, trying to get where he and whatever, and he just comes and he hits her, spins her out, and then starts getting out of the car in the middle of the rain to scream at her. A white cop, a white male cop. What
You
right
know,
did he have to do that? That to me, that's an abuse of power.
whether that cop had been a white male cop or a black cop, what was done was an injustice in
Exactly.
totality. And
Correct.
number two, the fact that he was a cop and he wasn't even on duty. He wasn't even
That
an
was
on
the thing.
duty
He wasn't on
officer
duty. He wasn't
at
in
the time.
uniform. He didn't show a badge. He didn't do nothing.
But
And
due to the depending on where you live in the racial climate, yeah, cop.
yes, and then to top it all off, saying that how he was going to bury her and making all of these threats. And right, I'm surprised she didn't break right there,
Well,
because I would have. I did. There was
it,
a
it,
moment.
it, what's funny is that after that whole traumatic experience, she takes herself back to work.
Yeah.
And then she goes into work, and then you know what, hit with another trauma. Because you know what? She's got a boss who's in her face. And the place that where she works, my God, I would not want to work in a zoo like that. But
Yeah.
you
Right.
do what you do what you gotta.
But then
But
she
my
goes to
point,
ask for her check. And then
and
what
and
happens when she goes to ask for her check?
he plays his narcissistic card. I'll
Then
mail
what
it to
happens
you.
after that?
And then you know what? That's when she really splits. And
Nope. No, you're
no,
missing a part.
the robbers come in and
Yes,
try
they
to
were.
rob the place, and she gets in a tussle with the robbers and ends up shooting one of them, and the other one flees. But to make a long story short, no, but to make long story short, the I thought we said we wasn't going to know. Okay, well that's too bad. Anyways, the boss who had been in her face, unwilling to give her her check. When that happens, He says, you knew them. And Buddy had been reading her badge. That's how he
Yes.
called her by name. And she said, I didn't know them. I didn't know them. He said, I'm going to call the police. And he
And he
calls
goes
the
to tell
police.
the police on her.
And then that was the last person that he ever called.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Compounded trauma.
And
Yes,
all she
trauma
wanted
upon
was her
trauma.
money. She didn't want
Yeah.
none of the access. And even when she left, she didn't take any of the access of money.
She
All
just
she took was
wanted
her
her
check.
check. Yes. Yes, exactly. So, like it's all of these things, and then even leading up to the point, right? Like the she couldn't oh man.
I'm thinking of her thinking about her daughter at this
Mhm.
point,
Mhm.
who is
Remember, she
in
believes
care.
she's in a hallucination now because she believes
Absolutely,
her
she's in a
daughter is
hallucination.
taken by CPS. Her daughter had
Yeah.
already passed at this point, but she don't remember that.
No, no. So she's got all of that. She's thinking about the landlord, paying the landlord. She's thinking about paying the school the $40. Oh yeah, the $40. And she's thinking about her daughter. And she
And
thought
then what
about
happens when she
every
goes back to she gets finally I think she got something. There was something that and she goes back home only to find out what happened.
she goes back home to find out that she was evicted.
And all her shit is on the lawn, being soaked. Her daughter's medication, everything is on the lawn, and the rain is just beating down, and she's there trying to pick up the pieces of her life. Meanwhile, boss lady landlord is still
It made me think when I was watching the movie, and me and you talked about this earlier, but it made me think when I had my break, and when it all really when it all just fell out,
Mhm.
and similar things going on, like life was breaking down. I had a relationship that had really broke down. I was working at a job of where completely disrespected, completely disrespected. And I let it go on for far too long. So there was a lot of things going on during the time that I had my break. But my break looked like this. My anxiety had been functioning at about a 8 to 10, as I said. So I really wasn't going out and around people. And there comes a point when you got to go out because you got to go out to buy groceries. You got to go out for certain things.
Mhm.
So it had came time I had to go out because I had no coffee, no coffee. And coffee was just the one thing. I can't go with coffee. I cannot go without coffee. I wasn't even thinking about the time of the month that I went to the store or anything like that. I was just thinking, okay, I'll go in there, I'll get my coffee, I'll get what I need, and I'll get out. I get in, not even thinking, but it was the first of the month. And if anybody knows about the first of the month, I'm talking about check day for all the check recipients. So my whole point being is I find myself in this store and it's check day, and I've got every and don't get me wrong when I say this, but every foreigner was in that store that day and they were all talking their own language. So to anyone who has got anxiety and it's at about an 8 to 10, I can guarantee you that sounded like and all I was thinking was, I gotta get out of here. All I need is my coffee.
Mhm.
To make a long story short, I make it to the coffee eventually, but that's not without shutting the whole store down by saying, "Get out of my way!" And all I basically want is my blank coffee. And I get down there looking like a crazy woman, or might I add. But my anxiety is going. Whoo, 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 whoo. I gotta get out of here. And I'm thinking at that time, all I need is my coffee. All I need is my coffee. To the point where I'm down there getting my coffee, and one of the gentleman that worked in the store. He says, ma'am, he says, you need to calm down. He says, you're scaring the patrons. I looked up at him at that particular point because as he was coming down at me, well, what was happening is, what I'm going to chase? Don't touch me. Don't you touch me is what I was thinking to myself. And I was thinking, I picked up that can and he knew, you make one more move and I'm going to put this can in your head. And I'm ready to go to jail. Today, I'm ready to go to jail. I don't care. Like it's all done. I end up in the parking lot after getting through to the cash. That's after counting myself down from 10. And I kept doing it over and over and over again until I get through the cash and I get out. And I get out in the parking lot and this great big Ford F-150 starts barreling through the parking lot. And I'm thinking, not today. Not today. That's it. And I just dropped the bags and I just stopped. And so he just stops because he's barreling. So he stops the truck. And I think, you want some of this? Because I was thinking, I'll pick your whole truck up. In my moment, I will pick the truck up, flip the truck, and we'll be done. He knows he's got a crazy woman in front of him and at that moment. Zooms out around me and keeps going. And then I was just left in a puddle. It just all fell out after that. And the chain of events that went on for the next couple of years was something a bit different. But that's what breakdown looks like for some of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's what her breakdown. And that movie took me right back to my breakdown.
And the thing is, it doesn't have to get to that
It
point.
shouldn't.
It
It
didn't have
shouldn't.
to. But no, but I mean, even for because this is a movie, right? So I mean, even for everyday life, for us, it doesn't necessarily get to that point, but it feels like it. And in our world, it's that's pretty much what it is, because
Mm-hmm.
like when I think back to to my breakdown, and where I was, where everything was coming to a head. I wasn't sleeping, my OCD was on overdrive, I was now being put on new medication to control my OCD. I had a car accident, I was planning a wedding, planning an engagement party, and then my grandmother, my mom's mom was in the hospital. My dad's mom had already, I think, had just passed around then. There were other family members that were getting married, and and things. So I was going, and I wasn't sleeping. I remember there was a point, like even with my OCD, and I think I described this as I felt like I was, because I became suddenly so obsessed with time, and to like to a very illogical extreme, right?
Yeah.
And but I realize now too, when I look back, I was malfunctioning. My internal clock body was malfunctioning. And the thing is, and what saddens me about that whole ideal is that I was still around people, I was still working and whatever, and nobody really, are you okay? How can I support you? How can I help you? Like, I
I
look
was
like a
going to ask
crazy
you
woman.
that question. I was going to ask you, what could someone have done to
No,
help you?
there was just judgment. There was write up, because I wasn't doing this, I wasn't doing that. Oh, we need this note for the doctor, because the corporate hoops that you have to jump through, right? I became a liability. I was on because one of the car accident left me with a partial tear in my right shoulder, and I was helping and pushing wheelchairs and things like that. So I was taken off and put on modified duty, right? So I could barely do anything. And they saw me as like, like a weakest link, not as someone who is human, who is
Going
suffering
through some things, going through
and
some things.
needs, right? As far as they were concerned, well, if something is wrong with you, then you need to take care of it. You're on your own, like, kind of thing. But I didn't know where to turn. Right? Like, it was just like I became like a performing monkey. And that's where this whole idea of hustle culture, and in society, and the hustle culture, well, you can't even speak. The hustle culture within society hits and impacts those who are melanated.
Yes.
All the people of color, the
Yes.
indigenous, the all people of color. And if you
Listen,
don't make it,
for instance, I end up I used to walk to work every day. And this is where this is an example of where we don't look after ourselves. I end up slipping, falling on my back, end up damaging my hand. And I needed my hand because a part of my hand was to do my job. What I should have done was maybe go to the hospital, something, you know what I mean? No, what did I do? Limp my ass to work, went in there, and it was business as usual for them. I brought myself back home, mended my wounds, took some ibuprofen for the next few days. But my point being is, you know what? That's what we often do.
mm-hmm.
We just get up, keep on going. That don't work. You can only keep getting up so many times, and then too
You know,
many
I
times
think,
of doing that, and it.
and I think in that moment too, it was an eye opener, because yes, I was suffering, and yes, it was hard to deal with and go through. But I think I also learned something. I learned something about strength. I learned something about determination. I learned something about um just what it means to be a Black woman, to be, and yeah, we're in Canada, but imagine what that would be. That's like for the US, because of course that movie is based in the US, right? And I mean, things are it set me down many different rabbit holes where things were concerned. It's like I suddenly saw my mother, and other Black women in a new light, especially because they had, they were doing what I was doing, but with children. I didn't have the luxury to have the child, but in a way, I think that also saved me, because I
I was
don't think
thinking,
I
you
would
know,
have
when
survived.
you were talking about the color aspect, and because of the melanin in our skin, a lot of things ended up either getting overlooked or were allowed to take place.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when that's happening, you cannot put the verbiage to what's happening, which makes it even more insidious. Because, and what do I mean by that? You go to your boss and say, okay, I think there's a real injustice going on here. You know, uh, looking at all I know it's triggering. It was triggering. It was triggering. Looking at everything that's being done, and you know that the color of your skin has something to do with it, but yet you have no allies, you have no support team, there is nothing put in place that is there to address that. So you continue to wear it. And that's just one place. That's just one place. Because just like in that movie, you have to go to the bank. So you know what? You go to the bank and you're praying to get the right teller. Let me get this teller because this girl does me good. That one I know is gonna fuck around with me. And she's gonna mess around with my money. My point being is most people would not have to go through that thought process.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a thought process as melanated people we live with every day. We go out and we gauge and we get back up and we keep going. And I think that that's the reason why this movie is triggering for most of our people.
Yeah.
It's triggering because, you know what? I want to look at that shit. I finally got through that. Or, you know what? I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at that. That's because, you know, oftentimes there's that something else if we haven't dealt with it.
Yeah.
There's that something else that's mounted to it.
Yeah. And then, you know, it that's the thing, when it goes unhealed and you don't address these issues, then they get passed down from generation to generation, right?
Generation to
Even
generation.
some of the coping mechanisms and behaviors, whether they're right or they're wrong, those get passed down too,
Well,
right?
that get up and keep it moving. That would have come from my mother. That would have came from my mother. You know, instead of addressing the booby, you're all right. Come on, get up. Stop your crying.
Mm-hmm.
And she was preparing us, what in her mindset, preparing us for the cold world. But
Mm-hmm.
I could have found other ways, Mama, to prepare. But I understand why she prepared because she was probably prepared for the world that same way.
Yes. Thank you, Susie. Yes. It's just, and the thing is, it when we run away from those things, we don't want to look at those aspects, then we're just repeating the same cycles again and again and again and again, right? Like, I mean, even today, like we dropped this live on Juneteenth and understanding the significance of Juneteenth. And I don't think a lot, I mean, I would hope, and I want to hope that people understand. But the thing is, what happens when we even when we start to have these, put recognition on certain events and things like that along the way, sometimes the and this is another thing that even that same author, Risma, was talking about on his live, where he was like, he was like, people are like, oh, happy Juneteenth. Well, it's not really happy. And
Nope.
right, it's not really happy. And then on top of that, we haven't, like, the whole point of it is to bring recognition to the areas in society that are not working or working against us, and how we can eradicate those things. But then you have, like, it's almost like, like the idea of Christmas or Valentine's Day or whatever. They become staples in society, but then people are like, oh yay. But then do we really know what the meaning is behind it? Because we're supposed
Mm.
to be celebrating freedom of slavery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, last time I checked, slavery has not been abolished. Just because they wrote
It
it on
is
a piece of
not.
paper and
It
said we're free, we ain't free. The
no.
hustle culture is live and well.
Absolutely, absolutely. In
Not even
the
to say
illusion.
systematic, how two people of different races could be working the same job, but the black one, the one of color, gets significantly paid less, right? And we're not looking at those things. We just go about our daily lives like nobody's business. Oh, it's okay, whatever. Yeah, no, let's not make these movies because they're too triggering. Well, they're
Right,
triggering for a reason.
right, right, right. And let's say that let's just go with the whole job thing, you know. And if I am experiencing inequality
Hmm.
and I am not prepared to do something about it, that's also going to leave me powerless. So I don't want to feel powerless. I already feel powerless enough. So I don't want to talk about that. You know, I'm good. We're good over here. Some of our people do that too.
Yes, yes, yes. and then want
Yeah.
to fault others for wanting to speak out about it. No, like that's again to me that's that goes back to that whole scenario of crabs in a barrel. No, 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 no. Let's not do that. Let's not do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I in as I said, a great teachable moment. How do we move forward? We are living in a time, as I said, when we look at our communities, and our families are in great breakdown. But I want to go back to that, Angie, because we're all women. Well, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of, I know a lot of that, probably a lot of people in the chat right now are women. No disrespect to the men who do show up, but a lot of us are women, which means, you know what, we're either somebody's mother, or we're
Mm-hmm.
somebody's auntie, or we're somebody's sister. I'm talking about is that, you know what, that word auntie, you did not need to be related to me in order for me to put those actions into place. Auntie in the community means, you know what, I'm going to tell you something. I'm your auntie to this person up here. I'm the auntie to that person down there, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching you as you go in between. That's the kind of community that I grew up in, and that is how I roll to this day.
Yes.
There's an auntie in my community, and I am also looking at my neighbors, those that I deal with. And what do I mean by that? Because I don't deal with everybody in my neighborhood, but I make it a point of speaking to everybody in my neighborhood. And there are
Mm-hmm.
certain neighbors I definitely check in on them, because I'm aware of some of their circumstances or whatever. And it's also about creating that community bond that is
Exactly.
lost. You you
Exactly.
you got to put some action into that, because it's not something that's going to formulate itself in a crisis. And
Yes.
you don't want to have to wait for the crisis, because you know what? Part of that bonding and or uh, getting to know what's going on with your neighbor, not to the point of where that you be nosy about it, but you know what? You don't want your neighbor suffering, or you being the one suffering. What about you? You might be the one, or I may be the one uh, uh, down here suffering when I really don't have to. I could be reaching out to my neighbor. So building, therefore, a stronger support system, because I can see right there within her life, in terms of the mom in the movie, she could have benefited from a support system.
Mm-hmm.
Even the fact of being 24/7 mom of sick child. My God, she would have needed
But she
a
did. She had her coworker, the one coworker. That was she had the one coworker who was, and sometimes that is that's a lifeline, even if it's just one person. But it
that's
shouldn't
a
have to be.
lifeline, but that's not a community.
I know, I
And
know, I know
and what
exactly.
do I mean by that? When we look at our community, oh, they got so and so. No, it's not just so and so. So and so is also a part of the community, and so are you.
Yes,
I'm thinking
exactly.
about how we need to start looking at things
Yes,
to
exactly.
prevent those kind of situations.
Exactly. Even the cop that she was able to relate. Everybody else was, oh, she's crazy, oh, she did it, oh, da 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 da, but this cop knew, because something about the situation reminded her of her own. Except
Yes,
she was a child
yes,
in that equation
yes,
for her situation, and she
yes,
watched her mother. So because of that, she had the capacity to have and extend that empathy to this to someone she didn't even know. She
yeah,
was just meeting for the first time, and she's
yeah,
investigating. And
yeah,
it's funny because we talk about the aspect of authority, and we even it's 5:55 now, and well, at least for me it is. And we talk about the sense of authority, and that whole part with the accident, and stuff, and I mean how the cop approached. So my similar situation where that is concerned,
Hmm.
that, but I feel was more along the same lines of the cop, that the female cop that was presented in the movie, who could extend the empathy. So now, I guess in this situation for me, this was the this was the um this was the light in a very dark space for me. So I had and the accident happened just like the day before my mom's birthday, and the way it happened, and it was traffic, slow moving, whatever, and I rear-ended someone because my foot slipped off the pedal, and I have little feet, 5.5 feet, and sometimes they do slip off, and depending on the shoes, and may wedge in between the two pedals, and I have to like quickly recover myself to get my foot back onto the right pedal. But this was a bit of a delayed reaction for me, which is why I ended up. But I mean, we was slow moving, so only my car was damaged because what I hit did not nothing. Okay, but it was another race that was in the car. The way she acted, attended, even as a white man, was a saving grace for me, because I'll tell you, he was not like the cop in the movie. This cop that I had to deal with in my life, he embodied the black cop, the female cop. He saw me in a state he that I was a wreck. I was hyperventilating. I could not catch my breath. I couldn't think straight. I didn't know what. Okay, and but he saw me, and he treated me with humility. He looked at me and he said, "I know that you're not okay." But he said, "Listen, we have to get through this. I have to do my report. We have to do this. And the faster we do it and clear the road, the better." So he was like, "What I need from you is for you to get a grip. Can you get a grip for me?" And while I'm there, I'm like, okay, okay. And I'm trying my hardest. But you know what? It made it easier. The way he spoke to me made it easier for me to actually catch a grip on myself, because he did not shame me. He didn't belittle me. He didn't talk down to me. He saw me. He showed me kindness. He showed me respect. Even in his position of authority, still had a job to do, but still managed to hold space for me in that moment.
It's weird because when I look back at my experience, what I just talked about being in the store, when I look back at that gentleman that was speaking to me that day,
Yes, the bank manager too, Susie. Yes, absolutely.
he,
And we'll talk about her after, but sorry, go ahead.
he was also being kind when I look back at it that day. And when I look at me and I look at him, it could have escalated. And I'm
Mhm.
sure the man didn't want no can in the head, and he was talking in a calm way. And I was in a position of being feeling like I was completely out of control at that particular point,
Yeah.
like an outer body experience. But yeah, you're right. It depends, and we can sometimes just watching how we speak and how we deal with the situation definitely can make the difference.
Hmm. And having and knowing that you have people out there who can recognize the have their own humanity, to be able to recognize the humanity in another person, even in when they're in a distressed state.
Going back to that movie, when she
Yes.
goes in to cash the check, because
Yes.
this was a great scenario. This was the great setup. You got the teller who's in front of her that's dealing with her,
Mm-hmm.
who automatically starts to look down because she's not going to cash that check. because she's already prejudging. She's prejudging her. She's prejudging the situation before they even know that there's a gun or there is a bomb.
Yeah, well, at first she's looking because she comes in distraught, and of course there's blood
Right,
on the check,
right,
right? So that's
right,
another thing, right?
right.
So I wouldn't say she was looking down at her, but she already had her like Raiders on and was like, kind of, this don't seem right. Something is off here.
Backing it up, though, I want to back that up because remember, she went into the bank earlier that day
Yes,
and she wanted her $40 out of the bank, but she couldn't get the $40
she
because
didn't
they
have her
wouldn't allow her to
ID.
take it because they would have to close the account. Where if they had just gave her the $40, that would have even alleviated some of the stuff.
It's because
So,
she didn't have her ID. That was what it was.
no ID. And
She didn't
even
have
though
her
they knew it.
ID, but they were like, I come here all the time and da 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 da, right? Like that was a thing, right? So I mean, it's also finding the middle ground with policy and things like that too, right? Because I mean, I can understand, I can see both sides because I've also worked both sides, right? I've worked the I haven't been the bank teller, but I have worked retail, so I've been on that side. Excuse me, and even as a social worker, I've been on that side where I'm the service provider, right? But and that's where I feel like where it there's that has to be that understanding where the humility, just because we are the ones providing the service doesn't mean that we are to lose our humanity where that is concerned, right? To be understanding. I mean, yes, we do have we have to protect ourselves because, right, when certain policies and if we do things and stuff like that, but and
I ain't
that's
gonna lie, I'm gonna tell you something. I would have cashed that check. If I was that bank teller, I would have cashed that check because I would have known what it was like to be her. I
mhm.
wouldn't have been judging her. And as a melanated person, and when people came into my office, I wanted that office experience to be the best experience because I knew
Yes,
what it was like to walk into an
yes,
office
yes.
and have a completely different experience. So I felt that it was my job as a person with melanin to be very conscientious of that when I had somebody else that was
But
walking into my office that was melanated because I already know what probably a plethora of their experiences was
mhm.
coming from the area that I came from because I lived in the same area as them.
But I'm what I'm talking about is not the branch manager. I'm talking about the teller itself, right?
Hmm.
The way,
Hmm.
and if I was the teller, how would I have reacted in that situation? So based on what I know and what has sort of been taught to me and things like that, I wouldn't have necessarily cashed a check, but I would have sought out my branch manager and asked her what to do in
Absolutely.
this situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because here's the scenario. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm gathering. But I know that in my personal position, I can't make that call.
But this woman's having a bad day. Can we give her a pass? Can I please cash this check? I would have probably done more of that than just cash the check. I would
Yes.
have, the boss definitely
I would have
seemed like
gone and
she was
checked with the boss first and let the boss maybe make
absolutely.
it okay and give
She
me
was more
the
than
okay.
reasonable.
Yes. Right. But then now, even from what Susie had said about the branch manager, you know, yes, the branch manager in regards to how the branch manager behaved throughout the whole time, from the moment she was scared and she knew what was going on, and of course the whole time they were thinking that there's a bomb, right? So that was the other thing. She had a gun and then they had what they thought was a bomb. Yes,
I thought that Sherry played a very good role right there.
yes, she did.
She I thought
She handled
if
that
you didn't know any
situation.
better, she knew how to deal with crisis, a crisis situation, if not
Yes,
anything else. But the fact that she knew her and all of that, uh, the way that she de-escalated the situation
yes,
and was able to hear her story, uh,
from start to finish. From
And
start to
yeah,
finish.
it showed great character.
Mm-hmm. It did. It really, really did. And and I just it 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 breaks my heart um that we have to produce movies like this, but at the same time I'm grateful for those who have their creativity to bring out things like this to address some of these matters. We need more of that. We need, because what we've been doing, sort of surviving it and then shoveling it under the rug, has not been working. It's only allowing for the cycle to keep repeating, keep repeating, keep repeating.
Well, here's what I will say. Who do you know that's struggling in your neighborhood? And your neighborhood would be the area in which you live. Who do you know could use a hand? Because there, well, you don't have to wait for the crisis. But if you have an eye, and assess a situation before you judge a situation.
Exactly.
You know, before you judge that mother, at least get to know her story,
Mm-hmm.
or get to know this, that there was probably a whole bunch of things going down before you're experiencing what you're experiencing in front of you. So hold some space for that is all I'm saying.
Exactly.
And it can be a win-win, but definitely we definitely need to be, and that's for, as I said, who in your community, not just mothers, who is in your community, who do you deal with into your community, and
And
maybe you
your
might want to
community
visit.
doesn't have to necessarily always be just where you live. Your
Right,
community includes the people that you talk to or interact
right,
with on a regular
right,
basis.
right,
Right? Like
right,
right now, I'm talking to you. You're in Nova Scotia, but Hilly, you are part of my community.
right,
You have become part of my community.
right,
And
right.
especially when I know your story. I haven't heard from you in a little while. Maybe I should reach out and say something, right? As opposed to, well, nobody looking out for me, so I ain't gonna look out for nobody else. It's just me.
Yes, yes,
Well,
yes,
you see, that attitude keeps us exactly like that.
right,
It
right,
keeps us separate.
right,
It keeps
right.
us alone when we
Or just
continue
don't
on.
assume either. Don't assume anything. Reach out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because knowing that we will often struggle before ever asking for help.
Yep. Yep. And I think that's kind of why I've always, I sort of always been that way. I think when you when you are born and raised into sort of like tragic situations, you either become part of the problem, or you choose to become part of the solution,
Yes.
right? And in this case, I'm like, I can't do this. I can't
Yeah.
operate like the rest of them. I can't. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit well with me.
Mm, mm, mm.
Why? Because I know what was like for me. And if I didn't like how that felt, why would I hand that off to anybody else?
This just took me back to when I was a little girl. And I'm gonna say that, oh my God, I couldn't have been no more than in grade one, or I'm gonna say grade one. And for most of you that follow me, you've heard a lot of my story, and with my story and my growing up, I talk often about the poverty that we experienced. But I'm at school this one day, and I'm taken out of class, and I am taken downtown by two women. Now, one of these women, I'll tell you, was a mother of one of the students in my class, which I thought automatically was weird. because she would always drop her daughter off every day. But you know what? This year, one day, why was she coming to pick me up?
Mm-hmm.
They end up taking me downtown, taking me to the local uh, dress and shoe store, letting me pick out 2 dresses and 2 pairs of shoes. Hardest decision I ever made in my life. I was never used to being able to just pick things out there like that. But my whole point being is, you know what? I went home that day with 2 dresses and 2 pairs of shoes, and I didn't understand why. But you know, that mother, that woman, she could have reported my mom because I didn't look so good or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They could have been, that situation could have ended up 10 different ways. But looking back at it, that's how you can handle a situation. You see what I'm saying? They
Mm-hmm.
knew my mom was struggling. They knew that my mom had, you know what, as many children at home as she did. Because that was, my mom was known throughout the community. I mean, how can you not have that many children and then, you know, the father die at an early age and whatnot? So somebody saw something that day and did the right thing. I know the woman's last name was Coombs. I do not know. I know the girl's name was Dawn Coombs. Yeah, I said it. And your mom's name, I never ever did get her name, but I you know what? I don't know. She probably dead now. Maybe not. I shouldn't say that. I thank you. I thank you. And I do remember.
Yeah.
And, you know, for that moment, you made a little girls feel very special. And you stopped my mother from going through further fucking trauma than what she really needed to go through.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Man, oh man, is just this is a start of a much bigger conversation,
Oh, yeah. You know what?
right?
That story got me right there. Ooh, right
You said
there.
that again?
Ooh. Yeah.
What
Made me want
happened?
to cry. It made me want to cry.
What? The which part?
The story I just told. Anyways, lost the
Yes.
point now, Alana. Keep it moving. Keep them piggies moving. Which part? Which part? She said, which part?
I
Yeah.
yeah, this is I I'm very very grateful for where I'm at today. I've it's been a long time coming. I've come a long way. I've learned a lot of things. I've met a lot of interesting people, and and even now, as I like I said, I've taken this dive into another aspect of spirituality and the people that it's opened me
Mm,
up to meeting and learning and stuff like that. If I didn't take this journey down this path,
mm,
I wouldn't be talking to you today, Hilly.
yeah,
We wouldn't be doing this channel today. We wouldn't be doing this live today.
I know.
So, I'm grateful for all of it.
Me
Even
too.
now I can look back and say, yes, I have gratitude for even the difficult aspects of it all. I mean, I could have done without the pain, but I mean but the lessons,
Listen, you know what? Every one of those lessons made me. They made me. They made who is here today. And they
Yes.
also made me have a vision for what really is going on out there with somebody else. So I wouldn't take not one of those lessons back
No.
because you know what? They didn't finish me.
Nope.
And I came back like Teflon. So look out.
Exactly. And you didn't break me. I had my
No.
my devil is still asleep, and I'm still happy go lucky Alana with all her piggies. Okay.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden I have
Yeah.
piggies to boot because thanks to therapy. So I mean,
No, thanks to trauma, you got you some piggies.
oh my god. Speaking of which, okay, so there's again, and you know how I love movies and TV shows, and I relate everything, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's this new show um you know what, actually, before I even talk about that, I want to say this before I forget. Because I as we continue to do these lives, and and meet in the spiritual void, and I want to thank everyone who had come out to spend time with us today, to be a part of this chat, even with all of the shenanigans that went on in the beginning there, all the technical shenanigans, and having patience, and still holding space, and and sitting here and listening and being a part of it all and interacting. And but the next, because I like to relate things to movies and TV shows, so and of course, like I said, if you haven't seen Straw, and you can do it, I think you should, because it is a very deep and powerful movie. And to me, I feel like it helps for that release, to really, oh, don't get attacked by the bugs.
Well, I had something that was crawling in there that I didn't want.
Oh geez.
I
Yeah.
felt it. It was right off. It was right near my eye. But you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I'm good, because you know what? I won't go in just for that.
Well, we had this conversation last.
Listen, I'm a bug terminator. No,
No, I will be in my bubble, out
I know you
enjoying
be in your
nature,
bubble.
but in a plastic bubble with air
Yeah.
conditioning and everything.
Alana said if she comes to visit me, folks, she's going to get a plastic bubble and set it on the lawn and watch the stars at night. I said, well, you go on, girl. The coyotes
Well, it's
don't
gonna
eat
be
you.
well furnished bubbles. If you've ever seen those bubbles, like to sell, like the thing is, I don't even trust some of these sites now, like the Timu and the and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
There was
yeah,
like, it's like there's it's like a camping big plastic eco bubble thing, right, and it's like clear all around, but like it's big enough that you can go in and put like stuff in it and camp out, like have like a camping tent, but it's
right.
a clear dome thing, right? So that's why I said it would be perfect, because yeah, so I could watch the stars and I could be well protected in my plastic bubble. Anyways, but yeah, but so as we been speaking about the movies and things like that, and the next movie, considering that this was such a heavy one,
All
um
right.
you know to lighten things up, I figured, and of course with my piggies and my inner child that lives and sits on the surface of me, um and very much enjoys all things Disney and whatnot. Let's take it to some Pixar, and we're gonna tackle the movie Soul.
What is
So
it?
Soul.
Okay, now, folks, you know what? Now, you got me movie watching. This girl got me watching TV. But this is okay. We can have a discussion. Okay,
Yes.
you're
And
going to
I'm
have to
telling
send me
you,
that.
you're gonna love Soul. Soul is
Okay.
is excellent movie. Not only that, we have who is I'm trying to remember the actor's name, but anyway, it's a black lead who voices over a black character who is a music teacher. That's the whole and then it's about going through his life and understanding, again, about being grateful for being alive, and embracing, you know living, right? And so this movie sort of really speaks to our origins. It gives you that understanding of, like, okay, what's in the great beyond? Like, after this life, where do we go? And before we get here, where are we? Right? And so this movie really, really speaks home to that. And then the way that it's presented in such a very magical, Disney kind of way, it has such great humor in it. But it has a lot of deep messages too, and so that's what I really love about this movie. So I hope that you will. Yes, it is, Susie, and it's not soul as in soleil, like the sun. It's soul as in our soul. So you're forgetting the you in that one. but
Well,
uh but yes.
I'm going to tell you, I am going to enjoy this because
Yes,
you
you
know
will.
why?
You won't.
I used to. I am such an impact. Now when I look at it, I watched all the movies I bought my daughter long after she was out of it. I would be sitting down there and watching those movies like I'll tell you, Lion King.
Mm-hmm. Nah, not
Yes, I
invincible.
named my cat Mufasa. Come on. You know, and that's about what I can handle, okay? It's not too intense. When you put straw at me, I thought, oh my God, what the hell does she have me listening to? She got my nerves all up here. I had to keep going back to it and keep going back to it. But I'm glad I'm so glad. Excellent acting and excellent movie.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So that's why I think Soul would be a really a next good step forward, because after we really dive deep, it's time for us to like
Ease
soar,
up.
and
Yeah.
really let our souls soar and sing. So
Yeah.
and this is movie would be perfect for it. And and stay tuned, because I have a lot of movies under my belt that we would
Oh
definitely
boy.
be able to talk about. So yes, 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 yes.
We're
And
going to be filling the spiritual void.
exactly, with things that can connect us all, right?
Absolutely.
As I said, art imitates life and life imitates art,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Art is also very healing, right? That's why we have things like art therapy, right? And that's where for me my connection to tarot sort of goes into, because I find the connection of the cards into even doing the introspection and getting to understand ourselves better, and so that's why I started my the 3 degrees of love and divination, and really looking at that and expanding spirituality instead of being trapped inside a box that was you know we inherited.
I would like to do the movie Crash. Now, as I
Oh my
told you,
God,
I'm not
yes.
a big movie watcher, but it was actually one of the movies I watched back in the day, which was impacted with lessons that could
Well,
listen. We could do
I'm
that
glad
movie
you brought
again.
that movie up, because that was another movie I was like, yeah, we have to talk about that one. But I
Yes.
think we'll save that one a
Oh
little
yeah,
later
we'll
down the
save
road,
that one. We
because
we
that
gotta
one's
go
another
something
heavy.
light.
That one's another heavy one, like strong.
Oh, that's another heavy one. We'll save that for a heavy banger day. And it won't be
Yes.
today.
Yes, yes, right. And but the what I wanted to say is that so again I was talking about my piggies, and then here comes this confirmation, because so there's this TV series, and I don't know who remembers the movie True Lies, that with Jamie Lee Curtis and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's like a spy, whatever. Anyways, and she's like a housewife. Anyhow, so they've sort of revamped it into a series on Netflix. And in the second season, one of the characters, they're going after some bad guy, and after he's like shot up, whatever, he ends up in a pig's pen.
Uh-huh.
He falls into a pig's pen and gets rescued by the pigs. And then, so what does he do? Of course, he adopts one of the pigs and names it. And then, and the rest of the rest of it, he's going, like, the rest of the episodes, he's on this adventure as a spy with this pet pig beside him the whole time, right? And he's talking to the pig, and then the pig saves his life a few times too. So
Elena,
I'm
you
like,
ain't making me watch that. I ain't watching that movie. I'm not going in
it's a
there like that.
series.
I see
It's a
no
series.
lesson in that movie. I can tell you right now. That's your symbolism. That's your symbolism of the gummy. I can tell you that right now.
I was like, you know what? I was like, okay, piggies. I was like, every time, I was like, you just have to show, just right. I'm like, it's not bad enough that the piggies are streaming on my Instagram feed like on a daily basis with their little piggy cells. I sent you that one,
Yes,
and I was like, that's
yes,
all they are.
yes,
That's all
yes.
their
They're
feelings.
all going in the door.
They're all going, but you see, like they're like creeping up, and
Yeah,
they creep
yeah.
up, and then they stop, and then they look, and they're like, okay, come on, let's go, and then after each other. Anyways, so
Piggies are the thoughts, folks. Piggies are the thoughts. In
The
case for
thoughts and
all of
the
you that wonder,
feelings.
what the hell is she talking about when she's saying piggies? We've been talking about that. I said, Lana, ain't no damn piggy. I said, that damn piggy is you. I said, you keep using the
It's
piggy. The
yes,
piggy
but
is
it's
you,
my feelings
Alana.
and the thoughts that run around like mad, right? And then like, okay, what are we doing now? Oh, let's go over here. Oh, let's go over there. And then even worse is when I get hyper, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I calm down. Let's just calm down. Just
So if you hear me say, folks, put the piggies away, Alana, put the piggies away, you'll know just what I mean.
it's because it's a hyperactivity that I feel like within me when I get excited, when like all of these things. And so yeah, and that I thank my therapist for that, because it was all about you need to get to know your feelings. You need to be able to separate your feelings from yourself so that you're not operating when you make your choices and you respond to situations, you're not reacting, because the feelings when you're responding to a situation, or sorry, reacting to a situation, it's often from a position of a particular feeling that you may be feeling in that moment. So whether that be sadness, anger, happy, whatever, embarrassment, whatever, the choices we make following that usually is led with that particular feeling. So when we can get ourselves and separate our emotions from who we are logically, we can have a better clear head and make more of a responsible decision when we are responding in situations. So that's a whole idea on where the whole piggies came about. But instead of just calling them feelings, it's kind of boring. So piggies
Well,
came
I'll
about.
tell you, here's what I do. Here's what I do. I don't give
Mhm.
it a name. I say this. I'm feeling as mad as a motherfucker. I'm feeling, yeah.
Yeah, but I
That's
mean,
what I
but
do.
again, it depends on how, like when we're having a conversation with someone, and depends on how we're leading, like
I
especially
know. I was
when we're.
joking, and I was
I know you
joking.
are. I know you are. But I'm just for everyone else. I'm also just reiterating the idea of what that really means, right? Because like even when we're triggered, what are we being triggered by, and how we respond
Yeah.
usually is led by an emotion, because the emotion is what comes up when we are triggered, right? So when we can identify what that emotion is, we're less likely for it to overtake and run our decisions, and we can take a step back with and use a logical sense to have a response, so that we're not then traumatizing someone else potentially.
You know, here's what I thought about when I thought about that movie. I know
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of done discussing it, but when we said that she didn't have anybody, she didn't have anybody. Had she tapped in spiritually? Because that was not even brought out in the movie. You know, in scenes that we're talking about the spiritual void. And I
Yes.
know that when I was going through my time, I'll tell you, I called on my ancestors. I called on my spirit guides. I did during that time.
But
And
you see,
it
that's
was
another
almost
thing.
like a please help me, kind of, it was kind of like that, right? But
Yes.
nonetheless, when they say that there's no atheists in the foxhole, right?
But that's another thing, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's another thing, being anchored with some sort of faith, because that was not at all. You're right. That was not at all brought up and discussed in the movie, or even any sort of potential where that is concerned, right? And I think that especially nowadays, as again we were talking about the inherited box sort of understanding of things, right? And a lot of people, because if they've been traumatized by that same system, they'll move out of it, they'll move away from it. But what
My
are they being
phone,
anchored to?
my
What are
phone
they?
is going to lose. My phone is going down. So
Okay.
we might need to wrap this up pretty soon.
Yes, but that's something to think about, and so that's I guess, as we do close, that's something for us to think about, about the understand having that anchor and what that anchor looks like. It doesn't have to
Absolutely.
be rigid and in a box, but
Right.
as long as we have some sort of faith that we are holding on to.
Definitely.
So, and leading with love always.
Definitely.
So, as I want to thank again everyone for being here and for being a part of this live, and thank you to my co-host Hilly.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for providing the space, creating the space. I love the name that you gave the channel.
Thank you.
Spiritual Void from A to Z. It leaves it open for so many things, and fell in
Exactly.
love with it right from the get.
But
And
and
thank
that was
you
the whole point,
for
is
having
that
me
we
on.
can, it doesn't matter what particular background we adhere to. As long as we are all leading with love and respect and integrity,
That's
then we
right.
can come together in commonality as humans with humility and hold space for one another and share the space with one another. And so, that was the whole point of this. And I'm so glad that, I've had, the conversations that I've had, in this space so far. And I'm so excited for the more conversations yet to come. So again, I want to thank everyone for being here, everyone who has
Yes, thank
taken
you,
the time out
everyone,
of their
for
day
showing up.
to show up and also to be in chat and and show your support. And I hope that you will join us again. And so, until
And I'm
next
sorry,
time.
I couldn't see the chat. So you know what? I don't even know who was in the house today, but you
Well,
are
I will tell
appreciated.
you. I will tell you. We had Sarah, we had Susie, we had and I'm sure they're still here. We've had hold on. There was spirituality, herbs and nature. So Sabrina.
Right on.
Um
Hello, Sarah. Hi, Susie.
Yes, and I think that's it. That's it. But that was good, and us. So, I mean, and of course this will be on playback so people, can see it, and
Absolutely,
check it out at
absolutely.
their leisure. So, and please like, share and subscribe, and I hope that you will hit that notification bell so you'll know when we're ready to roll out another video, whether that be live or whether we
Right.
premiere it or whatever the story is. So but again, I want to wish you guys all and recognition of Juneteenth, all of the melanated people out there. And whether you're melanated or not, you're a human being. So I want to extend that appreciation, that love, to everyone. And it's Pride Month. So we're all human.
For everyone that showed up tonight and took the time to come out, and anyone that will be watching this in the playback,
Yes,
you are
exactly.
appreciated. And as I said, this was done. This particular movie was discussed because you know what? There's so many teachable moments and teachable points in the movie that we can take into our lives, into our communities to make it a better place, make somebody else's life better in a day. You know,
And
that's
even
really
continue
why
the
we're discussing.
conversation. Even to continue the
Absolutely,
conversation.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yes. So, with all that being said, I love each and every one of you. I love you, Hilly. We'll
I love
talk
you
later.
too. Love
Thank
you
you
too.
so, so much.
You are thank you,
And
thank you.
until next time, we'll see you again soon. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.